explain you. Okay. So we will continue our session from the previous session, which was about some network service. Okay. We talk about some network service that we need to have that are essential for our system. Okay. That we need to install and configure. So last time we didn't talk in detail into the each services. Okay. The DNS, the NTP, the ACP. So today we will talk about it in detail, how it works. So let's start with the DNS. Okay, so DNS is one of the main, one of the main crucial services that need to be installed, need to be configured and operated in the system. Any system needs almost every system needs DNS server. Okay. So you may have already learned about this service from the network course already. What is DNS? How it works? Okay, so I'm going to tell you more, maybe some information that you may not know yet. So DNS is the domain name systems. It translates and maps names, usually the website URL that you type in the browsers, okay, to the IP address. So basically, technically, our machine, our computer doesn't understand names, okay? They only understand numbers. So if it wants to find a web server, it will need to know the IP address to that web server. So if we want to have domain names, we need to have some kind of service that map and match between names and IP address. Okay. Because why we use names? Because names are easy to remember. Okay. We easily remember names than numbers because it has meaning. But numbers doesn't have meaning. Okay. So we usually doesn't remember number well, so we use names, and then we have DNS server to translate names to IP address. So our machine, our computer can know where exactly that web server is. So every time we type in our browser the domain name, the URL that we want to access, it will search for that corresponding IP address. Okay. DNS យើងយល់ទាំងអស់គ្នាដែរអាហ្នឹងគឺជា service គឺជា system ដែលចាំបាច់ជាងគេអូខេតែអត់បានទេDNS ហ្នឹងអូខេនៅម៉ាស៊ីនណានៅ server ណានៅ system ណាក៏ត្រូវការ DNS ដែរយ៉ាងទេវាអាចរក web server រក IP address នៃ web server ដែលនៅលើ internet ហ្នឹងបានទេអូខេអញ្ចឹងso where our computer will start to search first. So it has to start from somewhere, right? It doesn't start to search right away on the internet. So the first step, okay, the first step of the journey, it will have to search inside local cache. Okay. So every computer has localhost. Okay. Localhost file. In Linux, we have a host configuration file, so it will start from there. Okay, it will have inside the configuration file, it will have IP address and its name. Okay, so if it can find the names and IP address inside the localhost file, it will know right away where to access that web server. So normally on your browser, inside your Chrome, your Firefox, it also has a cache, okay, cache storage to store the DNS information like IP address and its names that you already visited. Okay, some of the website you already visited, it will store its information about domain name and IP address inside that cache. So if you already visited that website once, it will be faster when you try to visit it again. Okay, you don't need to. The computer will not need to search the domain name from somewhere else. It just search from the local cache. Okay, so our computer here will act as what we call DNS resolver. Okay, we call it DNS resolver. And also every cache inside that browser, inside that temporary storage, has an expiry date. Okay, we call it TTL, time to live. So if you don't access that particular website for a very long time, it it will expire, and then we lose that information about the name and IP address. And when you access the website again, it will start to search from somewhere else again. And the next layer, the next step of the DNS server that our machine will start to search, if it cannot find the IP address in our local cache, it will start to search in DNS, what we call DNS recurser. Okay. This DNS recurser is the DNS server of our ISP, Internet Service Provider. So our ISP also have DNS server. Okay. They usually this DNS server stores the information of the website and IP address that their client usually or often visited. Okay, so it will have this server will have that kind of information. And if our machine, our computer cannot find the IP address in this server, in this DNS recurser, it will start to make another request to the next layer of DNS server. Okay, so that's the third stage or the third layer. This is what we call the main, the top level, not the top level. What we call here is the root level domain name server, but it stay on the top layer of all domain name server. Okay, so here the first place. Okay, the root level domain name server is the first place of all domain name server. What we call here is the first gatekeeper. Okay. Usually, if we type, let me find my pen. Okay, usually when we when we type in our URL. So for example, like www.example.com. Okay, you don't see it. This the character, the full stop, the dot character inside the browser, but it is right there. Okay, here is what we call the root. Okay, so there just normally there is another dot behind of com and under the domain. Okay, but we don't see it in our browser URL. So that root level domain name server is the first gatekeeper. Okay, it stays on the top of all domain name server. So it has all the information of all the domain name server. Okay, so it knows where to redirect the next request to the next layer of the domain name server when it get the request from our computer. So I think there are, if I'm not wrong, there are 13 of them in the US, in the United States, and it also dispersed around the world. Okay, they are the mother of all DNS. Okay, simple like that. So our computer will start to send requests to that root level domain name server. So and the root level domain name server, and then this root level domain name server will redirect that request to the next server, to the next DNS server, which is the top level domain name server. So we have root, then we have top. Okay, we have top, and then we have a second. Then we will talk about the second layer in the next slide. So these top level domain name server are the name server of the domain that end with the specific suffix that you usually see, like .com, .org, .edu, .io, many more. Okay, so they are the top. These particular .com, .org, .edu are the top level domain name server. Okay, TLDS. So they are the second gatekeeper. It will read the request and run through it the DNS server to redirect the next layer, which is the second level domain name server. Okay. So here is where the name or the name server that we usually have are stored in. Okay, that we usually buy from the domain name registrar. Okay. So when we go to GoDaddy and buy the domain name, that domain name is stored in the second level domain name server. Okay, like www.example.com. So example is the second level. Okay, it's the name that we usually buy from the domain name registrar, like GoDaddy. So the domain name registrar, as I mentioned, are the company that sell us the domain name. Okay, and it register our domain to a specific IP address. Usually it's a public IP address. Okay. So they control all the list of the domain name. Okay, you can buy any names from the domain name registrar. Like my name, your names, everyone's names. You can buy any name. Okay. So every names are stored on this domain name register, and they set us the name. Here I want to differentiate between domain name register and hosting. Okay, so the two are different, not the same. When we buy domain names from our domain name registrar, we only get the domain name and we have IP address, and we register that domain name to the IP address. So we don't have our website hosting yet. So when we want to host our website, we need to have another service, which is the domain name hosting. Okay, and usually some DNS registrar offer both service. Yeah, they sell domain and they also sell hosting. But if we want to host our, so hosting means we store our website files, our website project, website file on that server, on the server of hosting. Okay, so DNS hosting has servers, all the server that store all the website file to be able to let our website running on the internet. Okay, so we have domain name register, and then we have hosting. Okay, and if we don't want to store our website file on the cloud, on the hosting provider, we can store it on our own machine. It can be our own computer or our own server, and then we can configure our own server as a DNS authoritative. Okay, authoritative DNS server. Okay, so when it becomes authoritative, that means it can host our website. It can provide hosting service. Okay. Our computer can also host our website. Okay. I recap មកវិញអញ្ចឹងមិនខ្ញុំនិយាយអង់គ្លេសរហូតតែអញ្ចឹង DNS គឺវា store ព័ត៌មានអូខេ IP អានឹងឈ្មោះអូខេឈ្មោះអានឹង IP ឈ្មោះដែល correspond ទៅនឹង IP ដែលវាមានហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងដំបូងបើសិនពេលយើង access ទៅ website ណាមួយវានឹងចាប់ផ្ដើម search ចេញពីដំបូងគេគឺlocal cache នៅក្នុង machine យើងសិនអូខេ local machine យើងសិនlocal file វាអាចជា local file វាអាចជា cache file នៅក្នុង browser អូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាវារកអត់ឃើញនៅខាងក្នុង machine យើងទេវានឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមទៅរកនៅក្នុង DNS របស់ ISP ដែលយើងប្រើអ៊ីនធឺណិតហ្នឹងអូខេអញ្ចឹង ISP យើងក៏មាន DNS ដែរហើយ DNS នៅក្នុងរបស់ ISP ហ្នឹងវាភាគច្រើនវា store ព័ត៌មាន website ដែល client របស់ ISP ហ្នឹងចំណាំតែ access អូខេអាសារ access វានឹងមានព័ត៌មានតាក់ទងនឹង website នៅក្នុង DNS របស់វាហ្នឹងឯងតមកបើសិនជាវារកឃើញនៅក្នុងហ្នឹងទេវានឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមទៅរកពីកន្លែងធំហ្មងអូខេកន្លែងធំគឺចាប់ផ្ដើមពី root level មកអញ្ចឹង root level គឺ10ក្រោយគេហ្នឹងអូខេយ៉ាង root level ហ្នឹងវាមានទាំងអស់វាគេថាវានៅ top level នៅ layer ខ្ពស់ជាងគេដែលមានព័ត៌មានតាក់ទងនឹង DNS ទាំងអស់នៅលើអ៊ីនធឺណិតគេមកពិភពលោកចឹងចេញពី root level ហ្នឹងមកវាមាន top level គឺមានពួកកតុយដែលយើងចំណាំឃើញតាម website ហ្នឹងមាន .com .org .edu .kh country top level domain name ក៏វា include នៅក្នុង top level domain name យើង .kh តាមប្រទេសមានកូដតាមប្រទេស .kh .au .jp Thailand th អីចឹងដែរ nhà nó cứ top level domain name mà chẳng bắt đầu đi từ top level hay bị chập đam redirect từ bắt đầu tiết cứ nhà top level nó miền pò miềnแต่ตอน second level ยังมีหนัง redirect ตัวbắt đầu ในขนม second level จัง second level nó vì មានឈ្មោះដែលយើងចំណាំវាយចូលក្នុង URL ហ្នឹងឈ្មោះដែលយើងឈ្មោះផ្សាយយើងនិយាយស្រាប់គឺឈ្មោះផ្សាយយើងហ្នឹងឈ្មោះផ្សាយដែលយើងទិញពី domain name registrar lại ពី GoDaddy ហ្នឹងគឺអាហ្នឹងគឺ second level ពួក GoDaddy domain name registrar ហ្នឹងវាលក់អា domain name ហ្នឹងហើយវាអាច map domain name ហ្នឹងទៅ IP ណាមួយក៏បានដែរចែកចិត្តយើង IP ហ្នឹងយើងឲ្យទៅអា domain name registrar ហ្នឹងឲ្យទៅ GoDaddy ហ្នឹងនេះ IP វាមិនមែនប្រកាសថា IP នៅលើ cloud ទេវាអាចជា IP public IP របស់ server យើងហ្នឹងយើងក៏អាច map អា domain name ដែលយើងទិញហើយហ្នឹងមក IP server យើងបានដែរយើងធ្វើប៉ុណ្ណឹងបានយើងទុំតែមាន IP អានឹង domain name ណាយើងអត់តាន់អាច access website បានយើងទៅ domain name តែយើងដើម្បី access website បានដល់យើងមាន website project file យើងតែអញ្ចឹងចាប់ដើមចូលដល់ hosting គេមកថាយើង store website file យើងហ្នឹងនៅលើ web hosting server វាអាចជា cloud cloud hosting ដែលយើងទិញនៅលើ cloud ទិញរបស់គេចឹងពីច្រើនពួកលក់ domain ហ្នឹងវាឲ្យ service web hosting ហ្នឹងឯងចឹងបើមិនយើងចង់ host website យើងនៅលើហ្នឹងមកហ្នឹងស្អាតចិត្តចឹងតែបើមិនយើងចង់ host website យើងលើម៉ាស៊ីនយើងវិញលើវាអាចជា computer យើងឬក៏ server យើងត្រូវ install configure server យើងហ្នឹងឲ្យខ្លាចជា DNS authoritative អូខេបានថាជា server ដែលស្គាល់ថាមានឈ្មោះ domain name ហើយនិង IP នៅត្រង់ណាហើយអាចឲ្យ service hosting ហ្នឹងទៅកាន់ website យើងបានជាពេលយើង configure DNS hosting ហ្នឹងយើងត្រូវតម្លើង web server ហ្នឹងឯងអូខេយើងត្រូវមាន web service បានអាច host website យើងបានចានេះគឺ recap មកវិញចេញពីអ្វីដែលយើងបាននិយាយមុនហ្នឹងយើងចាប់ដើមដំបូងគឺចេញពីម៉ាស៊ីនយើងអូខេយ៉ាម៉ាស៊ីនយើងហ្នឹងគឺយើងហៅថា DNS resolver អូខេយើងវាចាប់ដើម set ដំបូងគេនៅក្នុង local cache local cache local file local host នៅក្នុងម៉ាស៊ីនយើងហ្នឹងអូខេតមកបើសិនជារកអត់ឃើញទេវានឹងចាប់ដើមទៅរកនៅក្នុងអានេះគឺបោះISP អូខេអាហ្នឹងគឺ DNS របស់ DNS server របស់ ISP តមកបើសិនជារកអត់ឃើញទេវានឹងទៅរកនៅក្នុងនេះអូខេ root level domain name server ចឹង root level domain name server មាននៅគ្រប់កន្លែងនៅពិភពលោកនៅជុំវិញពិភពលោកអូខេចឹងវា access លឿនទេវាអត់យូរទេបើសិននៅឆ្ងាយវាអត់មាននៅកន្លែងណាឆ្ងាយនៅអាស៊ីក៏មាននៅវៀតណាមក៏មានដែរចឹងតមកចេញពី root ហ្នឹងវានឹងអានេះវាមានព័ត៌មានទាំងអស់តាក់ទងនឹង domain name នៅក្រុមវាអញ្ចឹងវាមាននៅក្នុង top level តមកទៅដល់ second level ហើយបាន second level ហ្នឹងមាន IP address ដែលយើងចង់បានអូខេអញ្ចឹងចុងក្រោយគឺ second level ហ្នឹងឯងវាផ្ដល់ IP address មកម៉ាស៊ីនយើងវិញអូខេ DNS resolver យើងវិញចឹងហើយបានយើងអាច access web content របស់ website ហ្នឹងបានតាមប្រហែលគេគឺ HTTP protocol ដែលយើងស្គាល់ហ្នឹងអូខេ HTTP protocol យ៉ាងនេះគឺ so these are the layer that I mentioned earlier okay so we have root Okay, this is the root level. And then this root level, we have all the information about top level. So top level, we have many kind of names. So we have .com, .org, .eu, and we also have country code domain name server. .de here is the German, Germany, CH, China, UK.au, and our country is .kh. Okay, so these are the top level domain. And then we have our next level is the second level, okay, which is our names for our web service, website. Here we have, it can be any names, our names, our name of website, okay, that we buy from the domain name registrar. And then after that, we have subdomain. If we can have subdomain. Okay. So for example, our school, we have ITC. We have itc.edu.kh, right? So we can also have many subdomains. For example, like Zig, like GCA, GCI, right? So we can have many subdomains. Okay. And then after subdomain, we have our host. That means the local machine. Okay. The host name of our machine. Host name. So that means the name of our machine, our computer, our server. Okay. So for example, my computer has a host name of here. Okay. So you want to know our host name? Just type host name in. It's the yeah. This is my computer name or host name. Okay. Legend 79. So that's the, I think that's the bottom level. Okay, the last layer of the names that you can have. Okay. Toàn in nhóm vậy đó. Nên là nó cứ điện này. Okay. Nó cứ these are the some topics that I think you should explore by yourself. Okay. So for example, can a domain name have many IP? Okay. So previously we talked about DNS, we only assume that a name has only one IP address. Okay. But can it has many IP address? So you should explore on that question. Okay. You can search on the internet, you can Google. Okay. And also, can many names have a single IP? So it can be. Okay. It's also possible, but how that can be possible? It's the question. So you have to answer this question. Okay, you have to explore and research on that on this question. So next, previously we talked about the DNS service that we set up and configure on the cloud, okay, on the domain name registrar. But I also mentioned that we can also set up our own DNS server. Okay. But why we need to install that? Why we need to set up our own server if we can just buy or purchase the service from the cloud? So there are some advantages. The first advantage is we can run our web service. Okay, so usually our organization inside a small organization or a huge organization, they want to have their own web service. Okay, they want to host their own website. So that's the first thing that that is the reason why we need to set up our own DNS. And the second reason is we can, okay, so inside our organization network we have many machine, right? We have many machine inside our network. So if you want to remote to those machines, you have to remember its IP address, okay? But if you cannot remember IP address, you can just remember name, right? Because names are easy to remember. So if for example, if we want to remote to a particular user, so we have their names, so we can remember their names. And if we want to remote to their machine, we can just use their names. We don't use IP address, okay? For example, we have user name, we have user, a local machine have a user of Sarah, for example. So we have our IP address, for example, 100. So if you want to remote to that particular machine or particular computer, we have to remember this IP address. But if we don't want to remember its IP address, we just have to remote to Sarah, okay? If we have our DNS server configured and installed inside that network. Còn đấy, nhưng reason ទី1ដែលយើងត្រូវហេតុអីបានយើងគួរតែ set up DNS ខ្លួនឯង okay DNS server ខ្លួនឯងហេតុអីបានយើងមិនចាំបាច់ប្រើរបស់គេនៅលើ cloud ទៅមិនទៅតែធ្វើខ្លួនឯងទៅអីអញ្ចឹង first reason គឺយើងចង់មាន website hosting ខ្លួនឯងហើយយើងចង់មាន web service ខ្លួនឯងអញ្ចឹង web service គឺសំខាន់ជាងគេជាច្រើន organization ធំៗគេមាន web service ដែលយើងអាច provide service ហ្នឹងឲ្យclient ច្រើនអូខេវាអាចជា software ជា app ជា website ផ្សេងទៀតអូខេជា API ជាអីមកកណ្ដោទៀតអញ្ចឹងយើងចង់មាន web service ខ្លួនឯងអាហ្នឹងគឺជា first reason ទី1ហើយ second reason ហ្នឹងគឺយើងចង់ remote អូខេអញ្ចឹងremote ធម្មតាយើងត្រូវចាំ IP ប៉ុន្តែបើយើងអត់ចង់ចាំ IP វាពិបាកចាំអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចប្រើឈ្មោះអូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាយើង configure and set up DNS នៅក្នុង network ហ្នឹងហើយអញ្ចឹងយើងអត់ចាំបាច់ចាំ IP ទៀតទេយើងចាំតែឈ្មោះទៅគឺយើងអាច remote ទៅបានអូខេអានេះគឺជា so these are the steps these are the process that we usually do to set up a DNS for a particular website. Okay. So first we buy and register the domain name from the domain name registrar. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to buy a domain name. Okay. And then we need to point our website file, okay, website project toward that domain name. Okay. That means hosting. Okay. So we can use hosting provider on cloud or we can host on our server. And to do that, we need to install and configure web server on our own server. Okay. And then we need to point the web content to the IP address. Okay. So this can be done by using. Normally, we can use the service from the domain name registrar, so we can point our IP address to our domain name, or we can configure our own server to become authoritative. That means our server can know where that IP address is. Okay, to match the domain name. So authoritative DNS server are the server usually on the cloud service provider, right? Yeah, cloud hosting provider. But we can also configure our server to become that kind of server as well. Okay. So if our server become that DNS server, authoritative server, and it's of course it can also provide hosting service, right? But of course its service can be dependent on the hardware, on the performance of our network. Okay, that's why usually they just buy it from the cloud. It provide better performance. Okay, better performance. But if our server has good hardware, has high spec hardware, it has enough capacity, like enough storage, enough RAM, enough CPU, can handle many requests. So it's fine to configure our server to become authoritative. Okay, because server need to be run 24/7. Okay, so if our DNS cannot handle that kind of workload, just buy it from cloud. Okay. គេតខ្ញុំនិយាយអញ្ចឹងprocess ដែលយើងអាច set up website យើង run លើ internet អាច access បានហ្នឹងគឺដំបូងយើងមិនទិញ domain អូខេទិញ domain name ពី GoDaddy ពីអីហ្នឹងអូខេនិយាយរួមមកអាពណ៌នេះមានច្រើននៅលើ internet យើងអាច search ខ្លួនឯងទៅអូខេ top registrar popular registrar អូខេយើងចំណាំស្គាល់ហ្នឹង GoDaddy ដំបូងយើងបាយឈ្មោះបាយ domain name ពីកន្លែងហ្នឹងសិនបន្តមកចាប់ដើម hosting អូខេ hosting យើងទិញ service វាក៏បានឬក៏យើងអាចយើងដូចយើងនិយាយមិញហ្នឹងគឺយើង host ទៅលើ server របស់យើងមកអូខេអញ្ចឹងដើម្បី host ទៅលើ server យើងមកយើងត្រូវ install configure web server អូខេដើម្បីអាច handle web service បានតមកអានេះគឺត្រូវ point ឈ្មោះហ្នឹងទៅ IP address របស់យើងហ្នឹង website file យើងទុកនៅណា IP យើងនៅហ្នឹងអូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជា website file យើងនៅលើ server យើងហ្នឹងគឺ IP server យើងហើយបើសិនជាយើងទុកនៅលើ cloud អាហ្នឹងគឺ IP cloud ហើយតាក់ទង authoritative DNS server នេះគឺបានន័យថាយើងអាចធ្វើឲ្យ server យើងខ្លាចជា authoritative បានអូខេដូច server របស់ cloud hosting ចឹងប៉ុន្តែអាហ្នឹងយើងត្រូវគិតលើ performance ដែរអូខេវា performance វាល្អប៉ុណ្ណាហ្នឹងអាស្រ័យទៅនឹង hardware អាស្រ័យទៅនឹង network ដែល server យើងនៅហ្នឹងអូខេតែការ network server យើងវានៅកន្លែងនៅដែលមានបញ្ហាច្រើនវាដាច់ខ្សែដាច់អីចឹងហ្នឹងហ្នឹងក៏ performance វាអត់ល្អតាមហ្នឹងតើមកតាក់ទងនឹង internal network មិនហ្នឹងតាក់ទងនឹង remote okay so this the DNS service for internal networks I already mentioned previously is about remoting to local machine inside a network across the network so if we install our DNS for our network then it can map every computer inside the network to its IP address okay. It can map the names of the host machine to its IP address. So we can just remote the computer using names, not IP address. Okay, I think that's all. That's all it was. So when we when we install this DNS service for our network, every computer, every local machine need to point that its DNS server DNS server address to our server address. Okay. So that's what we do in our lab practice. We try to install DNS server for our server machine, and then we try to set up IP address for our client, and for the DNS address, it's the server address. So in my lab scenario, we have here, right? That's the IP that I chose. So this is the IP address of the server. So it has two, right? It has two IP address. Okay. So this one, this 1110 is for the DNS, is for giving the service to the client. Okay. So we to client. Okay. So client will need to assign or to set up a DNS address in its interface in the network adapter to point gateway and DNS to point to our server. Okay. So gateway address is also our server address. DNS address is also our server address, so that we can use the service that we installed here. Okay, so we will try to do that in our lab practice. អញ្ចឹងនៅក្នុងម៉ោង lab យើងគឺយើងព្យាយាមធ្វើអញ្ចឹងអូខេយើងព្យាយាមតម្លើង service ទាំងអស់ដែលយើងត្រូវតម្លើងនៅក្នុង server machine server machine ហ្នឹងបន្តមកយើង client យើងហ្នឹងត្រូវ point address ដូច gateway អានឹង DNS ហ្នឹងទៅកាន់server ដែលយើងធ្វើហើយហ្នឹងអូខេអញ្ចឹង client យើងគឺអីគេរួមគឺ11ក្បាល11អីគេ host only អីគេ VMnet គាត់អញ្ចឹងវាត្រូវទៅ point ទៅaddress របស់ server ហ្នឹងអូខេ11.10អានេះគឺសម្រាប់ internet ទេអានេះយើងបាច់ខ្វល់ទេអូខេតែអាហ្នឹងអាហ្នឹងគឺអត់បានទេអាហ្នឹងធ្វើការ internet អូខេអញ្ចឹងប្រហែលជាខ្ញុំទៅទៀតឲ្យយើង configure server ហ្នឹងទៅជា router អូខេទៅជាបានថាវាអាច route internet route internet មក client បានឥឡូវ client យើងនេះអត់មាន internet ណាយើងបានធ្វើហើយអ្នកធ្វើហើយយើងដឹងហើយទៅពេលដែលយើង set up តែ VMnet មួយ IP ហ្នឹងគឺអត់អាច access internet បានទេអូខេវាត្រូវឆ្លងមក server សិនអូខេអញ្ចឹងតតែ server នឹង route internet ទៅឲ្យវាបានមាន internet access អូខេអាហ្នឹងគឺតើតនឹង lab ចេះ Okay, so next we have another service which is NTP or network time protocol. So it's also important here. It used to synchronize clock, synchronize time on all the machine or the local computer inside network. So it's important because especially in the real-time system, especially inside, for example, airport. Okay, the time is important. It cannot be a second delay, especially for the schedule of landing or departing. Okay, inside the airport. So the airport system usually they have NTP server. Okay. So when we buy a ticket, when we buy a flight ticket, okay, it display on the website the exact time that it's synchronized inside the airport system. Okay. So sometimes it can be usually if we don't use NTP, we don't have synchronized time. Okay. Outside the airport, it can be some delay. Okay, some delay if we don't use NTP. And some services, some security service, and some authentication protocol, it really depends on that synchronized time. If we don't have synchronized time, it won't be able to function. It won't be able to work. So NTP protocol is very important. Vậy là trong vậy cứ thà time synchronize គឺវាសំខាន់នៅក្នុង system មិនថា airport មិនថាអីទេគឺករណី airport ដែលខ្ញុំនិយាយនេះគឺវាអានោះ critical អូខេវាសំខាន់មែនតើបើកន្លែងផ្សេងដែលមិនសូវគិតរឿង real time ហ្នឹងយើងអាចវាអាចមាន delay ខ្លះហ្នឹងវាអត់មានបញ្ហាទេអញ្ចឹងយើងក៏ត្រូវមាន service NTP ហ្នឹងនៅក្នុង system យ៉ាងដែរ and usually we can synchronize time with the public NTP server. So there are many public NTP server on the internet throughout the world, okay, across the world. And also we can synchronize time using local NTP server. So we can install and configure our server to become NTP server. And then we can synchronize time across the network. So to set up our local NTP server, we need to install and configure our server to become NTP server, of course. And then inside our client, need to install as well the NTP client software or NTP clients as general, and point the address of NTP server to the local NTP server that we already configured. អញ្ចឹងតឡើង NTP server ដូចក្នុង lab ដែលខ្ញុំឲ្យធ្វើអញ្ចឹងយើងនឹងធ្វើទៀតអូខេព្រោះមានវាអាចជួបបញ្ហាច្រើនយើងគ្រាន់តែតឡើងហើយ configure server យើងហ្នឹងខ្លាចជា NTP ទៅហើយបន្តមកលើ client យើងគឺយើងតឡើង client មិនសារទៀតអូខេ NTP client វាមានច្រើនអូខេ software មានច្រើនអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចនៅក្នុង NTP client ហ្នឹងយើងអាច point address ដែលយើងត្រូវ synchronize ហ្នឹងទៅកាន់ NTP server អញ្ចឹង NTP server ហ្នឹងគឺ NTP server ដែលយើងតឡើងហើយហ្នឹង NTP server យើងតឡើងហើយហ្នឹងគឺវាបានមកពីណាអញ្ចឹង inside our local NTP server that we just install and configure, we also need to point another address, okay, another address to public NTP server, okay. It can be internet time server or satellite, okay. Satellite time. So across the internet these days, it has many public NTP server. Okay. អញ្ចឹងអាហ្នឹងជា practice ដែលគេចំណាំធ្វើគឺបានថាបើសិនយើងចង់តឡើង server យើងឲ្យខ្លាចជា NTP server យើង NTP server យើងហ្នឹងត្រូវ point មួយសារទៀតទៅpublic NTP server ដើម្បីឲ្យ synchronize time ឲ្យវាដូច internet អញ្ចឹងពីចឹងយើងថ្ងៃនេះវាម៉ោងដើរត្រូវហ្នឹងគឺដោយសារតែយើង synchronize time ជាមួយនឹង internet public NTP server ហ្នឹង then យើងធ្លាប់ជួបWindows ចាស់ Windows Server នេះហ្នឹងវាយើងការ synchronize មកអត់ត្រូវទេយើងម៉ោងដើរខុសមកចឹងហ្នឹងមកពីវាអត់ synchronize ម៉ោងជាមួយនឹង public NTP server តែឥឡូវ Windows ទំនើប Windows 10 11 នេះវា synchronize ម៉ោងជាមួយ internet ត្រូវហើយដោយទូរស័ព្ទទេទូរស័ព្ទក៏វា synchronize ម៉ោងជាមួយនឹង internet ត្រូវដែរលើ smartphone ដល់ពួកទូរស័ព្ទចាស់វាអត់មានអាហ្នឹងទេអូខេយើងថាម៉ោងយើង set ចង់ដាក់ម៉ោងណាក៏បានដែរចឹងហើយសុខឃើញម៉ោងដើរលើស1នាទី2នាទីហ្នឹងគឺសារតែវាអត់ synchronize ថា So next we have another essential service that need to be installed and configured inside our server, which is the DHCP. So you may already know this well, okay, in the network course. So DHCP is the dynamic host configuration protocol. So it assigns IP address automatically. We don't need to manually set it. Okay, static IP. We no longer need it. So usually to configure the DHCP server, we need to choose an IP address range. Okay, and then we also need to have DNS address. Usually, if we have our DNS server, then we need to have we need to assign local DNS address to that DHCP server. And then we have to assign gateway address and then subnet mask. That's all the information it needs. So it's simple. Okay, DHCP is the most simple service. So these are the supplement reading that you can read. Okay, if you want to understand more. You can understand more about the top DNS server here. Top DNS server here means the software, okay, the package that we need to download and install on our server. So on Linux, we have bind package. The package name is bind, okay. BIND. We have many more package names that we can use. And it's also the same for the DHCP. We have many software that we can use to install on our server. So you can read more on that. And then we have the next service. It's also important. Okay, this service is also important. It's the file transfer service. Okay. So why is it important? Because we need to transfer file, right? We don't want to use USB drive. We don't want to carry USB every time we need to copy file from one computer to one computer to just transfer file across the network. It's easy. Okay. So we need to, if you want to transfer file across the network, then we need to install file transfer service. So there are many popular services here. You have FTP, you have SFTP, and then you have TFTP. So FTP here is the file transfer protocol, is the most used protocol that we usually see, most popular one, and it's also old as well. Okay. It has been used since long time ago, but it's still used today. So this FTP is not secure, so it doesn't have any encrypted protocol. It doesn't encrypt data, so it's not secure. To be able to transfer file, the clients need to install FTP client. Okay, so there are many FTP clients somewhere out there, and if you want to know, you have to search. Okay, you have to Google, and then FTP here is mostly used to sell web content. Mostly to update your website content, update the website file, okay? Your website file, I mean. So mostly in the cloud hosting provider, they offer this FTP connection to, if you want to configure and update your project, website project inside the server, then you can use FTP. Okay. And then we have SFTP, the secure version. Okay, secure version of FTP. So this SFTP is sent through SSH protocol, so secure cell, and the data is encrypted. Okay, so it's more secure if you want to have a secure protocol to transfer file. And then we have TFTP, the most the simplest protocol among the transfer the file transfer. Sorry. So it doesn't require any authentication. It doesn't encrypt any data. It doesn't do anything. Okay? It just transfer file. And mostly it uses to store installation files. The image file, especially the operating system image file. Okay, because since it doesn't require any authentication and doesn't encrypt data, doesn't require any secure protocol, we can install operating system or install software using this protocol by what we call here is PXE or pre-boot execution. Okay, if you don't want to carry a USB drive around in the network, okay, so normally if you want to boot and set up operating system, you have to have a USB, right? That's the normal practice that we always do. But if you don't want to do that, you can just have TFTP, and then we store OS image somewhere on the network, and then we can just boot from the network. Okay? We can boot image file on that particular machine from our own network. Okay? So we don't need to carry our USB drive anymore in order to install Windows or install any operating system. Cái toán là FTP bây giờ người phở làm mấy access update website file là dương nó không web server dương nữa. Okay. Nhưng bây giờ là cloud hosting provider phụ hosting những việc FTP connection. Okay. Làm bây giờ dương cho từ cái file website dương đó, file PHP file HTML đó. Okay. Là dương miền trong website của dương năng. Dương miền percent bây giờ trong our secure dương per SFTP. Okay. ហើយបើសិនករណីที่ FTP នេះគឺបែរថាវាអត់ត្រូវការអីទាំងអស់ត្រូវការ authentication អត់ត្រូវការencrypt ត្រូវការអីទេអូខេអញ្ចឹងបានថាបើសិនចង់ boot image file សម្រាប់ operating system គឺស្រួលមែនតើយើងគ្រាន់តែ boot ចេញពី network ដែលយើងតឡើងហ្នឹងបើសិនជាយើងមាន TFTP server ចឹងបើសិនយើងតឡើង TFTP server ហើយយើង store image file យើងនឹងនៅលើ server ហ្នឹងយើងគ្រាន់តែនៅពេលដែលយើងចង់តឡើង Windows តឡើងអីនៅក្នុង machine ថ្មីគឺយើងគ្រាន់តែ boot ចេញពីnetwork យើងមកគឺវាហើយស្អាតយើងចាំបាច់កាន់ USB តឡើងម្ដងមក machine ម្ដង machine ណាតែគេវាស្រួលតោះហ្នឹងYeah, these are the supplemental reading. You can read more on the FTP client. Okay, so there are many FTP client out there. Okay, the FTP client software, and then we also have if you want to know about the pre-boot execution environment, you can read more. Okay, how that works. Okay. So next, I think we already mentioned all the important services that we need to have here, but we will have other kind of service more. Okay, we will talk about the other kind of service, more like a web service, like directory service that we haven't talked about yet. So these are the network service only, the network service that are important for our system. So next we will talk about how to manage it, how to configure it, and we will do more in our lab session. And we will talk about the software service and the platform service, like we will talk about it later. Okay, in the next session. I don't remember the name. Okay, I will talk about it in the next session. And here I just want to talk about the practice that we usually do to troubleshoot if we have any network connection issue. And usually DNS is the main culprit. Okay, if we cannot access a particular website, we have to check our DNS. Okay, if our DNS is working correctly or not. Okay, sometimes we point to the wrong DNS address. Sometimes we didn't set a address for DNS. So if we cannot access website, we need to check DNS. So first things first, normally if you cannot access something, if you cannot access a particular website or a particular server, we need to ping first. Okay, that's the most common thing, the most common practice that we do. Ping IP address, ping names, okay? Ping domain names. If it doesn't work, that means we have connection problem. We have some kind of cable issue or internet issue. It doesn't connect it. Okay, network issue. Okay, but if the ping is okay, that means the issue is on somewhere else, like DNS. Okay, so we need to check our DNS. We can check DNS using NS lookup. When we check our DNS using NS lookup, we will have the result of domain names and its IP address. So we can check that IP address, and then we can ping that IP address again. Okay. If the ping is okay, so it has to be something else. Okay, that means our DNS is working already. But if the ping doesn't work, that means something's wrong with our DNS configuration. Okay. Sometimes our DNS point to the wrong IP address, point domain name to the wrong IP address. Okay. អញ្ចឹងចំណុចនេះចង់និយាយពីនៅពេលដែលយើងជួបបញ្ហាអូខេតកតងនឹងពេលយើង access អីអត់បានអូខេជាពិសេស website យើងធម្មតានៅពេលដែល access website អត់បានយើងត្រូវ hack ping អា ping ត្រូវធ្វើមុនគេ ping website ហ្នឹងដល់អត់ដូចខ្ញុំ ping ឲ្យយើងមើលពេលម៉ោង lab ហ្នឹងបានថា ping Google ហ្នឹងបានថាមាន internet អត់បានថាយើងមាន connection ទៅ outside អត់យើងបើសិនជា ping Google ដែរហ្នឹងបានថាយើងមាន connection ទៅ internet ដែរណាអូខេមាន connection ទៅក្រៅហើយតែបើ ping អត់ដែរទេអាហ្នឹងមកពីវាអាចមកពី DNS អូខេយើងដាក់ DNS អត់ត្រូវឬក៏ DNS យើងរក IP ហ្នឹងអត់ឃើញអញ្ចឹងមកពីគេយើងអាចប្រើ NS lookup command ដើម្បី check មើលថាឈ្មោះ domain name និង IP ហ្នឹងវាត្រូវគ្នាអត់នឹងដំបូងឧទាហរណ៍ thọ nếu thọ Google sao mà gì ns look up or.com như thế nhân viên đang behind IP វាមកអាក្រុមគេហ្នឹងហ្នឹងគឺ IP ដែល point ទៅឈ្មោះ domain name google.com អូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាពេលយើង ping ករណីដែលយើង ping google.com អត់ដែរ ping ឈ្មោះ domain អត់ដែរយើងអាច ping IP វាអូខេអាច ping IP វា ping IP វាអត់ដែរហ្នឹងមកពី connection យើងហើយប៉ុន្តែបើ ping IP ដែរបានថាមកពីយើងហ្នឹង DNS យើងហ្នឹង point ឈ្មោះហ្នឹងអត់ទៅអូខេយើងត្រូវ check មើល DNS configuration យើងសាថ្មីចឹងយើងអាច ping Google សារទៀតទៅអូខេដើម្បី check មើល IP អញ្ចឹងនៅពេលដែលយើង ping Google វានឹង check មើលIP address ដែលវា point ទៅអញ្ចឹងជួនកាលបើសិនជាយើង ping ឈ្មោះអត់ដល់ហើយ ping IP វាមែនតើដល់អាហ្នឹងមកពេលហ្នឹងពេលយើង ping google.com ហ្នឹងវានឹង display IP មួយផ្សេងទៀតតែខុសពី IP វាមែនតើអូខេអាហ្នឹងមកនៅពេលដែល DNS ដើរអាហ្នឹងជា practice នៅពេលដែលយើងជួបបញ្ហា DNS ដើរអូខេមានអ្នកចេញមកអ្នកចេញទៅណាមានអីចង់សួរអាចសួរបានអ្វីខ្ញុំនិយាយទាំងម៉ានហ្នឹងយើងយល់ច្បាស់ហើយក៏ពិបាកយល់ហើយក៏មិនឡូស្ដាប់ទៅងុយដេកឬក៏អត់ទេអូខេសម្រាប់អ្នកដែលចាប់អារម្មណ៍ខាង network ថា interest លើខាង network វាឥឡូវយើងស្ដាប់ទៅប្រហែលជាចូលហើយស្ដាប់ទៅ interesting ស្ដាប់ទៅវាយល់ស្ដាប់ទៅចូលអូខេសម្រាប់អ្នកដែលធ្វើខាង software development វាចឹងគឺអាហារ network គឺអត់សូវស្ដាប់អត់ចូលហ្មងស្ដាប់អត់សូវចូលអត់ដឹងថា network ដើរមួយទៀតខ្ញុំនឹងធ្វើ survey មួយសួរយើងឲ្យហើយខ្ញុំនឹងធ្វើ survey មួយថាយើងចាប់យក profession អីគេនៅពេលដែលយើងចប់ឬក៏ពេលយើងចាប់ដើម start ឆ្នាំទី4នេះអូខេអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំនឹងធ្វើ survey ហ្នឹងហើយខ្ញុំនឹង check មើលថាណាគេចង់ធ្វើខាង network អូខេអញ្ចឹងហ្នឹងយើងពេលខ្ញុំមើលទៅខ្ញុំដឹងថាណាគេមានបញ្ហាក្នុងខ្សែហើយខ្ញុំ evaluate ម៉ោង lab តាមហ្នឹងអូខេយើងដឹងថាតែយើងចង់ធ្វើអីដឹងហើយទៀតតដឹងអញ្ចឹងសម្រាប់អ្នកដែលចាប់អារម្មណ៍ខាង network ខ្ញុំនឹងឲ្យជា idea បន្ថែមគេថាយើងត្រូវធ្វើមិនខ្លះទៅរៀនអីខ្លះទៀតអូខេជា road map អូខេតាម experience ដែលធ្លាប់ជួបអូខេតាមមិត្តភ័ក្ដិខ្ញុំភាគច្រើនគឺការនៅរៀនហ្នឹងគឺសិតតែអ្នក network អូខេខ្ញុំហ្នឹងក៏អ្នក network ដែរអ្នកការឆ្នាំទី4ហើយទី5ហ្នឹងអូខេOkay, done. Any question? No question. Easy. Chứ là Việt Nam thì đây là chẳng hạn họ sự active không cả vậy anh mà việc gì đấy dương hiện giấy rồi còn dương mi anh giấy rồi còn đừng anh giấy thầy kế rồi còn vậy anh khai ở đấy chăm chắc đôi nhau men sân tăng pi trong men sân tăng pi men sân tăng pi session môn tập bóng cái nóคือấy vào khó sa mình chơi nó như miền này cái mình thơ mà nâng phải nói chứ cho nên anh bị ai prep rồi từ tam càng là khơi bỏ nhắc vì ai chia miền sầm nô sẽ rồi có ai chia presentation rồi có ai chia interview okay chẳng ở lớn nó cứ bàn thà cho cho nó active không càng gì ở trên thì muốn cho bàn thà nhưng là miền presentation này là interview fail why not phải nói chứ cô ta tiếng không phải sao khi chương trình bây giờ bây thơ presentation thì ở bên mong của con là bây giờ vậy đó các bạn trong nhóm thì thơ bây giờ anh vậy đó các bạn biết càng giấy cứ dùng khăn cái bây giờ áp trên giấy cái là thơ ca chỉ ngày có những thơ ca chỉ có lắm nhưng trong thơ ca ấy có thể thêm này vừa giấy admin communication good communication between the team mà những người thơ ca ăn bỏ cái thơ ca tầm
còn những thứ online rồi còn nữa thì cũng
hay chứ không thể nào mong làm gì nữa như anh thờ mong làm chuyện này online thì là cái mong lại nè làm to mong là gì anh tôi mang tới không thế phải chạy này cái ăn màu này cái màu thì màu thì này mà cái
local
let me check
local rồi khổ vậy tha tới bay thế ngay dân hiện là kia ai tài mình
yeah no
no
yeah I want to talk about that we will move to let me check the schedule first the new building room okay the I46 506 oh 406 yeah 406 I room okay. Room 406 the new room building okay the new class smart classroom but I think let me check the schedule if anyone use that room today or not no one use that room okay so we can use that room this afternoon it's bigger than our building F room and it has working projector we can use that okay what else let me check the schedule of group B you have any class at 1 p.m. or not group B 1 p.m. telecommunication máu cho năm máu nó riêng ở hoặc tận mất riêng ở lại đâu
អាទិត្យហ្នឹងក៏អត់ហ៊ានដែរគ្រូ
អាទិត្យហ្នឹងក៏អត់រៀនដែរ
ចាលោកគ្រូ
ឥឡូវយើងអាចដាក់ម៉ោងហ្នឹងបានទេក្រុម B ព្រោះកុំឲ្យដាក់ថ្ងៃស្តុកផឹកព្រោះឲ្យងើបមិនទាន់មកសាលាក្រុម B ឥឡូវក្រុម B
បានលោកគ្រូ
អូខេយើងដាក់ម៉ោងហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងថ្ងៃម៉ោង 1
ចឹងលោកគ្រូថ្ងៃស្អែកហ្នឹងអត់ហ៊ានទេមែន
ណែយើងដាក់ម៉ោងហ្នឹងយើងដូរពីមួយស្អែកមកដាក់ថ្ងៃហ្នឹងឯង
ចឹងវាត្រូវចូលឆ្នាំខ្មែរហើយបានចូលមែនលោកគ្រូ
ចូលឆ្នាំខ្មែរបានចូលមិនចង់និយាយថាម៉េច
លោកគ្រូម៉ោងពេលលេខថ្ងៃស្អែកគ្រូថ្ងៃនេះប៉ះម៉ោងពេលថ្ងៃហ្នឹងប៉ះគ្រូទីននៅនឹងគ្រូកំហែង
អូច្រឡំមកស្អែកថ្ងៃសុក្រម៉ោងចូលមួយការដែរចឹងម៉ោង 3 ខ្ញុំអត់មានអីទេអូអូខេអត់ការដាក់អូខេហាចឹងពីម៉ោងចឹងគ្នាក៏អត់កើតចឹងបើថាយើងដាក់ម៉ោង 7 ដែរចឹងអូខេអានេះក្រុម C តនេម៉ោង 1 ហើយក្រុម A ក្រុម C ខ្ញុំគិតសិនអូខេខ្ញុំគិត schedule សម្រាប់តែ C តនេម៉ោង 1 ក្រុម B ក្រុម A ខ្ញុំថាក្រុម C ទាំងហ្នឹងតនេម៉ោង 1 ថាហើយស្អែកក្រុម B តនេម៉ោង 1 ដែរថាអត់
គ្រប់ B តនេលោកគ្រូ
អត់ទេចង់ថាថ្ងៃហ្នឹងក្រុម C តនេម៉ោង 1 ដែរ
ថ្ងៃតនេ 1 3
ហើយស្អែកហ្នឹងក្រុម B តនេម៉ោង 1
ស្អែកអត់តនេchứស្អែកបើតនេ 3 5 ម៉ោង Telecom
អត់ទេក្រុម B និយាយក្រុម B
ហ្នឹងហើយលោកគ្រូថ្ងៃស្អែកតនេម៉ោង 1 3
អញ្ចឹងមកថាឥឡូវមិនយើងចង់ថាមិនឥឡូវអាចក្រុម C ដាក់ថ្ងៃហ្នឹងម៉ោង 1 ហើយក្រុម B ស្អែកម៉ោង 1 វិញកើតទេ
ការឆែកថាដល់អ៊ីស្រាអែលក៏ពី
អ្វីតែមិនស្ដាប់បាន
ការឆែកថា
អូខេយើងធ្វើចឹងបានយើងអូខេណា
បានឆែកបាន
ចឹងក្រុម C ម៉ោង 1 ថ្ងៃហ្នឹងហើយស្អែកក្រុម B ម៉ោង 1 ថ្ងៃស្អែក
ប្រាប់អត់ខ្លះហ្នឹងហើយ
អ្វី
ប្រាប់អត់ខ្លះហ្នឹង
okay okay after what we talk about is the schedule I want to make up 2-hour session for group B but they are not available today so I want to move the group C session from tomorrow to this afternoon 1 p.m. and then we can replace group B session to tomorrow 1 p.m. So today you have group C and group A. Group C start at 1 p.m. and group A start at 3 p.m.
Teacher, chắc ở bệnh em nó được thế này.
Thăm mấy
Nhưng bệnh làm khoan nó được thế này.
sẽ nào lưu chẳng chỗ.
Teacher?
Yeah.
It's possible. I don't know, but the last week the teacher of theory of computer science moved the lesson from Wednesday to jeudi to Thursday 1 p.m. and I don't know if this week I will have theory of computer science or not, because I didn't have a class yesterday, but I have no information. I have they didn't tell they didn't tell nothing on Telegram, so so
okay.
I don't know if I have lesson or not.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Let me check first. Okay, it's taking time right now.
Because like next week that was a theory of computer science that was on Thursday. On the other week it was automata theory that have been moved. And this week there was no automata theory on Monday, and no theory of computer science Wednesday. So I don't know if one of the teacher moved the lesson.
Okay.
It's Mr. Footfalakong and Mr. Validona.
Okay. Let me try to confirm. Oh, I'm sharing screen. Okay, there we go. I forgot my quiz. So we have test quiz to test your understanding at the end of session. Okay, so I will assign the quiz right now, and you can do it until 11:30. Okay, it's not a big quiz, just a multiple choice question, easy. Okay, just test your understanding of what we talk about today. Okay, like usual. So there are some 11, I think 12 questions. It's a very easy question. If you listen to me, you can answer it. assignment. Not difficult to think. The answer is right there. Okay, plain sight. You can just choose the correct answer. Okay. I will assign the question right now. Let me, okay. I can start doing until 11:30. And for the okay. So I already confirmed with Dr. Pala that his class is this afternoon, the theory of computer science. This afternoon, Thursday, 3 p.m. So I think we cannot have group C session. Yeah.
លោកគ្រូមិនឲ្យ answer ហ៊ានជាមួយ group B មកទឹកទៅ
He has other schedule, I think. I don't know. Let me switch. Let us switch to the original schedule. So group C, 7. Oh, yeah, 7. Group B to 7, 9 Friday. Okay or not? Group B ម៉ោង 7 9 ថ្ងៃសុក្រvậyដែរទៅរឿងទៅ plan ដើមនេះវិញយើងចង់រៀនម៉ោង 7 9 អត់ហើយក្រុម B សំខាន់ជាងគេដោយសារតែក្រុម B ក្រោយគេអូខេហើយទឹកក្រោយហ្នឹងគេវ៉ាស់កងអញ្ចឹងយើងនៅក្រោយគេយើងត្រូវថែមមកហើយអត់ថែមទេគឺយើងនៅក្រោយគេអូខេតែអត់ថៃបានច្រើនអូខេ 7 9 ថ្ងៃសុក្រអាចមកសាលាបានទេខ្ញុំសេរីឲ្យហើយឥឡូវសេរីឥឡូវឲ្យហើយនិយាយគ្នាឲ្យ We conduct in physical class. If someone busy cannot go to class, there is another. ចង់និយាយថាយើង online class ឥឡូវគឺខ្ញុំពិបាកក្នុងការមើលយើងមែនតើពេលយ៉ាងពេលមកក្នុងថ្នាក់ខ្ញុំមើលតអ្នកនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់ទៅហើយអ្នកនៅ online គឺបើសិនខ្ញុំ stick នៅ online គឺខ្ញុំអត់បានទៅមើលអ្នកនៅក្រៅកើតអូខេអញ្ចឹងទៅវាញ៉ៃមែនតើខ្ញុំបានថា online ខ្ញុំមើលដិតដល់ខ្ញុំពិបាកក្នុងការជាពិសេស share screen យើងត្រូវអង្គុយចាំយើងវាយតាខ្ញុំហៅគឺវាយូរមែនតើខ្ញុំមកវិញជួយវាយឲ្យអញ្ចឹងទៅតាអីទៅឥឡូវបើសិនយើងមកសាលាបានគឺធ្វើអញ្ចឹងសិនហើយចូលឆ្នាំហើយមកសាលាមកព្រោះដូចយើងនិយាយហ្នឹងគឺម៉ោងដែល work ហ្នឹងគឺចង់ថាតទៅធ្វើបានដឹងអូខេតទៅធ្វើជួប error បានដឹងថាត្រូវដោះស្រាយមិនព្រោះអញ្ចឹងទេអត់ដឹងទេតទៅមើលនៅមុខផ្ទាល់មកវាមានរឿងច្រើន laptop យើងខុសៗគ្នាមានបញ្ហាខុសគ្នាហើយជាពិសេសអ្នកប្រើ Mac ខ្ញុំមកថាអាជីពអងតាម visualization កាត់អត់ទេចាំទៅតែថាវាអត់មានអងតេស្តប្រើអូខេ mấy nhưng số sẵn chiều cộng bi mong vào buồn ngày sau nhưng stick từ mong năng rực có thế ai màu sẽ là bạn thế lấy cộng bi lên đây mà màu sẽ là ai màu sẽ là bạn ạ mùi bạn mà nè Pram nè mùi nè bạn nè đọc nè đó thì bắt top candidate như thế này nát visa thế này thợ hạt bạn này ok đọc môn nè ok đấy cho người phong ba buồn ok ngày sau ai cầm xin nền tảng vì như cái máu nhảy nhảy schedule từ máu của sơ hiện một phiên sinh tiền đại ngày sau vì schedule vì conflict chứ ok
nó khổ cho ngày sai nó hiện ở group này in hiện ở tục này
tục chậm tục là tục buồn ở mỗi ai cả bạn đã ok là sao ta từ thăm đã ngày sau nó cứ mong cho nam phở và ta lấy còn riêng để những ai cả bạn ok
Cô chắc vậy ta group C thay mong mùi bên người nâng mình
tệ thay mong ngày năng tệ cầu sĩ
cha là cô
okay so we stick to the normal schedule except group B the group C still on Friday 1-3 p.m. Okay. And group B Friday 7-9 a.m. Yeah, toàn là toán chứ. Chả xoay vào mắt đó.
tao ăn nó khổ
For quiz đó. Don't forget to do the quiz. Then the question is simple. The answer is easy. Okay. And I will do another survey for you to know your future profession, your target job, target field that you will choose for your career. Okay, I think that's all for today's session. We continue after the holiday. So thank you. I wish you a happy holiday and stay safe, everyone. You can rest now.